I've got it all here.
All right, it's footy and frothies. Time to get out the thing, forensic kit,
Forensic kit.
and look back on
Magnifying
what the
glass,
hell went wrong for these
microscope.
teams. So we're going to get into our season reviews, which Daggy Barney with you. If it's your first time on board, say hi and subscribe and do all that good stuff. But we're going to look back on the bottom 5 teams. What went right, what went wrong. I have challenged you to come up with a good news story or a good something positive from each team at least. So when it's not just all doom and gloom, there'll be plenty of that along the way. And just see what hope there is for next year for some of these teams. My initial thoughts and opening notes was, isn't it? We see how much of rugby league, and so much as long as we've been doing this show, the more things change, the more they stay the same. With especially these probably 3 or 4 of these clubs in question. Unfortunately, Barn, but
Correct.
what did
100%.
a bit of your research tell you? I guess across the board, and then we'll get stuck in. We'll
Yeah,
work
well,
from the
just
bottom
start.
up.
Obviously, the West Tigers finished 17th. They played 24 games. They won 4 of those games. Unfortunately, lost 20 of them. 0 draws, 3 byes, which is consistent across pretty much every team in the comp, bar 2, with the draw thrown in for the Knights and the Manly side. For and against was minus 290. I found a few discrepancies in the Fox lab across the way. For some reason, they seem to have missed a game for everyone for points for. So if you actually look down a bit further where I have, for some reason they've got 373 points for. And then when you go to and actually look at the points scored by the Tigers, it was 385, which is unusual. But yeah.
So I just had the week off that week.
Yeah, they was 17th overall for points scored, obviously. 621 points scored against, 17th again. An average of 16 points every game and 27 conceded, which is not a way you want to set up your season, unfortunately. 75% completion, which was 12th in the league, which was probably one of their better parts of what they did. They did seem to control the middle of the field in a lot of their games during the year, which led to a 88% tackle efficiency, which is better than a lot of other teams that finished a lot higher than they did during the year. I started with some negative stats to start with, just to try and lead into a bit of positive stuff.
Thanks, mate.
A little bit further down the line. But
look,
yeah, that was basically the tail of the tape. They didn't score anywhere near enough points, and that was a constant theme of our discussions during the year.
And congratulations on being the first team in modern history to go further down the ladder from a wooden spoon. Look, the Tigers season, you look back on it, and it sort of existed in 3 parts. The first 6 or 7 games was when they were dominating field position, looked like they should be going well, couldn't score points.
Yep.
Then they had that little 6-week period where Luke Brooks came good, Appy was fit, everyone was on the field, and they probably should have won 6 in a row, Nelly, at 4 out of the 5 or 6. Then Brooks got injured again, and it all just fell off a cliff and went to shit. I think they were 4th on the. This sums up the season: is that they were 4th on the opposition play the ball, 4th on the play the ball in the opposition 20 list.
Yep.
Behind Panthers, Warriors, and Canberra.
Right.
And finished last in the tries.
So they got into the right spot.
They spent lots of time getting in the right spot. I thought their forwards, by and large, were very good all year.
Correct.
Attack was the issue. Simple as that. And laid back in the year of defence. But they went, injury didn't help. There was, I think they had 8 different halves combinations, maybe more. And most of them weren't let's be brutally honest, weren't up to first grade half standard.
Yeah.
I think Brooks and Dewey only had 3 games together from memory. And Appy missed a couple of them. Look, it wasn't great. It wasn't great watching. What are your takeaways initially?
Mate, it's exactly what you said there. They just failed to have anyone that was able to set up a structured attack to be able to break open the defensive line. You saw how many times that they cruised down through the middle of the field, got themselves into the opposition half, and then the ball just died at an edge constantly, time and time again.
for a team that has had this many 20, we rap at Penrith about how they don't have a lot of setup plays.
Yes.
Tigers have 5 setup plays every tackle.
Correct.
And then if someone drops a ball or kicks out in the full or gets tackled in a corner. There's no in between. I don't know what the creativity is. When it does look creative, it's in slow motion.
The best they looked was when Stafford went on a bit of a tear there, and he looked like one of the better centres in the comp. And basically, they were just feeding him, and he was the one that was breaking open defences and scoring tries. But a lot of that came off his own bat with footwork and pace and bit of physicality. Handling errors, they were the worst in the competition. So they ran first in handling errors, 241, which was, there's only 5 more than the Broncos, but the Broncos have played a couple of extra games as well. So penalties, like in other areas of discipline, like penalties conceded, they finished 11th with 133. Like that's pretty good for a team that's ended up running last. There's 6 other teams that were much worse at giving away penalties.
Unfortunately, 90% of those would have been piggybacks out of the opposition 10 metre as well.
Ineffective tackles. They ran last in ineffective tackles. So they were the best team at tackle efficiency, which doesn't lead to you thinking that, that they ended up running last. But it's something that does say something about their discipline and the middle of the field being strong enough to be competitive against opposition teams. But, yeah, it gets missed tackles again. They ran 12th on average with 33 missed tackles a game. They made, they made their tackles. They did all that kind of stuff. But line break assists, 2.5 a game last. Try assists last with an average of 2.2 a game. You can't break the opposition twice a game and expect to win games of footy. So
yeah. Look, I'll temper this a little bit by saying, in my humbly unbiased opinion, they probably, with even luck and decisions, probably win another 4 games. There's 2 against Canberra they probably should have won. The Manly game, they nearly should have caught the Bulldogs. Nearly beat Para, et cetera, et cetera. And then it's a little bit, more optimistic. But ultimately, how do you have faith? I struggle to have faith in where the club's going. That said, let's get to some positives. Actually, just the other thing I want to mention, and this probably won't get mentioned anywhere else, but one of the catalysts for where they fell in a hole, and I actually called for it before it happened, was them moving Bateman to the middle of the field. They were very good up till then. Bateman was handling the edge, doing a mountain defence, looked creative. They moved him to lock for about a month, and it shut Bateman down. It sort of half exposed him through the middle, and it just massively exposed the edge, like your Kapoas and Talaus of the world. And that's where they just got hammered throughout the season. Hindsight, obviously, being 2020, I wish they hadn't have done that. But at the time, when you're missing Dewey, you're missing Brooks, you're missing any creativity. I don't necessarily begrudge it. I understand the thinking, but I thought that was a catalyst. And then from there, it was downhill.
Well, as you mentioned, line breaks again, 4 line breaks a game, and then 2 tries off the back of 4 line breaks leads you to the worst attack in the comp, which is what they ended up being with 60 goals and 66 tries. Bateman was probably one of their better players for
that wasn't
the entirety of the year.
No means that a knock. That was a wrap on Bateman.
Did strengthen up their middle of the field because they were midfield when it came to missed tackles and.
In no way was that knocking Bateman. It was the fact that it weakened a strength.
Absolutely. And because he was creating a few opportunities on that edge when he was going searching, running on that angle that he runs inside and outside to provide the ball to other players. Some of their better players, Bateman, as you said, he probably made a few of those tackles when he was in the middle of the field, but he was their top tackler with 772, which was 25th out of the entirety of the competition. Wakeham somehow managed to be their top point scorer with 62 points, 27 goals. Stafford Toa with 7 tries, but he wasn't in the top 50 if you're looking for that. Again, line breaks, try assists, no one in the top 50. Post-contact meters, David Clemmer, 9th on the list with 1,278 post-contact meters.
I'll just stop here because I want to try and take a couple of positives. And
That's
David
a
Clem
big
was
positive.
100% one. He ran over 3,000 metres for the year.
Yep.
And incredibly, as my thing, the biggest stat, if this ticks over, he made 513 tackles and missed 8 tackles all year,
Wow.
which is incredible.
Absolutely. it is.
So I think he, wouldn't necessarily call him by the earring, but he has been fantastic. His effort every week I can't fault. Played every game. I think he might have missed one for suspension. And I just thought he was
It
outstanding.
ran
all year.
for 3,300
Yep.
odd metres as well. Couple of the other ones, tackle bust. Junior Tupu was your highest tackle buster with 84, but that was 30th out of the competition. So you really need a couple of guys up in the top of that list. Appy missed the second most tackles, but he made a shit ton as well. So that's
Who missed the most? Reed?
relative. Yeah, Reed
Yeah.
missed the most with 100,
23.
107.
Yeah.
Junior Tupu made 27 errors, which is not great, obviously. 27th. It's still only 27th out of the competition. When you look at some of the teams, I think the Sharks had 3 blokes inside the top 10 with handling errors. Reece Walsh from the Broncos was the leader, and they're about to play off to get into the grand final. So, stats can be pretty relative when you look at that kind of stuff. Isaiah Papali'i, by the back end of the year, really started to come good. It did take a while to get going, which was probably a little disappointing as a Tigers fan, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Probably took him about half the season before he really got into stride. But
Back in the year, he was almost our best player, to be honest, apart from the obvious. There's a couple of games he had where he's our most dangerous point of attack.
Yeah, especially towards the back end of the year.
In terms of the Dragons game there and a couple of those.
Dream Buller, the Dream with kick return meters. He was 10th in the list with almost 1,000 meters, 964. But he did make 24 handling errors as well, which wasn't great. But he added a spark like nothing else. He was the spark that this side needed.
You're talking about positives. To me, there's the 4 big ones. You mentioned Bateman, we mentioned Clemmer. Clemmer I wanted to hammer because I think it's another one's a little bit under the radar. And then Appy and Bull. Like Buller is potentially a star in the making. He's been named as the Fijian fullback, I believe.
Yep.
For these internationals coming up. So I hope that is another learning experience
Well,
for him.
Clemmer was one of the better forwards for the entirety of the year. I mentioned it last year when he was at Newcastle, and just the way he goes about going through his work, he doesn't have the shit in him that he used to have in him, where he was giving away a whole heap of penalties and doing stupid shit in the middle of the field. He was the ultimate professional again and just got through his work. You mentioned Bateman. Papali'i by the end of the year was starting to come good, so hopefully if a good pre-season, get him started off next year, something to work around. The biggest problem for the Tigers is they've got issues in pretty much their entire spine apart from fullback. With the young kid, and the young kid as well is someone who's probably not going to be great all the time.
Well, I want to mention Buller because he's starting to making, but he does have a bit of a stink of second year syndrome if things don't go right.
Possibly.
Especially given they're about to offer him lots of money for a long time. But I hope he doesn't. I'm just saying it's you want to see him do it again. And Appy, when he was on the field, was fair. Like I dread to think of a world where Appy Coruscant was in his Tigers team because they would have all of those stats you read.
Well, he would have won
would have
3
been
of
half
them.
of them.
He would have won 3 of them games out of the 4 that
and
they won.
a couple we lost. A couple we got real close in. He was their best player by a long way. I think in the Wooden Spoon team, he almost cemented himself as the best hooker in the comp. From that situation, and I just want to wrap him.
Oh, you give him another 5 or 6 games, he would have been in.
If he didn't break his jaw when he did, when they were actually had a bit of momentum.
But even as a team running last, he still would have been in the conversation for best hooker in the game.
Yeah,
and he still wasn't far off it, even though he only played close to half a season.
Yeah.
But,
so that crueled everything. In terms of flops and Marcus for next year, look, there's severe issues. I guess the other thing we're going to talk about in each one of these is how we fix a joint for all these clubs, or what might change for next year.
A lot of fixing.
Where I would actually start is the outside backs. I've disappointed Talau's going, but even Stafford Towie had those 3 hot games and then wasn't phenomenal. Other than that, Kapoa, we know, and we haven't seen a lot of. I assume Josh Felladay gets first crack next year.
You would think so.
Tristan Riley was in.
I think Junior Tupu's worth pursuing.
I'd pursue, and they did miss Charlie Staines, who was good. the
When
times
he
he's on
did
the
play.
field.
Yeah.
So if he's right, there's a little bit there, but that's where I'd almost be looking for a strike centre.
I think Dewey has to go back to centre.
Yeah, there's defensive
But
issues there
he's
as
still,
well, but
he's almost a year away anyway.
that's
isn't he?
right. So we live in a world where I'm not treating Adam Dewey as it. Look,
Well-
I like the signing of Aiden Caesar. I think that gives what we've
Gives you some
needed:
structure you
stability,
don't
a
have.
structure, a halfback that's going to run to the line, kick the left foot boot. Smart player, seasoned player. It's what we needed. If only we had someone like Jackson Hastings that could have done that. Sullivan's got a bit of spark, and we'll see what Fainu brings to the table. The other Fainu was impressive. Time we saw
when he
him
did
at
play.
Manly.
Yep.
So, look, no issues with signings. The problem is, not a problem, this is a positive, but the Tigers will make it a problem, in the fact that more than half of their squad is under 23. And there's 7 players under the age of 20 in the top 30, already in top 30 for next year, including Lachlan Galvin, Fainu, De Silva, Philaday, etc., etc., Matamua. That's a good thing. But can you trust it? What my concern is, can you trust the Tigers to have patience? I can see with where Benji gets sacked freaking 12 rounds in, and they all just, and then we're all back to square one again. I think they need to, I hope they have the patience to back Benji for 2 and 3 years and say, look, we're going somewhere, but not quickly.
Yep.
And then you see what happens with Newcastle. It happens with some of these teams. Get a bit of confidence. They all of a sudden knock one off, and they can get a bit of wind in their sails, but it is the Tigers, and I struggle to have that confidence.
Stefano was one of my disappointments, to be honest.
I would agree with that.
He, ever since he got, brought into the squad, he was going quite well up until Origin time, and then after Origin, he basically disappeared until the last, maybe 3 games. I think he had a pretty good impact in the last 3 games that they played at the back end of the year, but I was really expecting him to go much further develop much further than he did this year. Doesn't mean he can't do it next year, but they need 2 front rowers. They need another probably starting forward and a reserve forward to come on and keep up that kind of tempo that they put out at the start of the game, because they really fell away when they started digging into the reserve forwards for the Tigers. And they need some structure around the middle of the field with their ball playing and their kicking game.
Yeah.
At times, Luke Brooks looked like a genius. So there was about a 6-week run there where he looked like the best he's played in the last 10 years. And then, once again, he disappeared off the face of the earth and became the guy that sort of runs sideways, gets belted, and doesn't want to play footy anymore. So,
Yeah. We'll see. Like I said, there's a kernel of something, but unfortunately it's in the wrong nursery sometimes. Chris wrote in and said, in terms of the Tigers, as a long Tigers supporter around 60 years, if they keep their spine together for an extended period, they should go a long way getting off the bottom of the ladder. They have the
spine?
Well, we're starting from scratch.
You are starting from scratch.
Well, you got to say, in fairness, Appy and Bull are at least half a spine.
Yeah, half a spine.
And Caesar is 3/4. So,
Maybe.
So that-
You
what
got to
that
see
means.
what he comes back like.
Tigers have a forward patch to match anyone in the comp. They need to keep Staines on a wing and find another winger. Move Tupou and 2 out of the centres. No idea what happened to Naden, which is fair comment because he actually looked all right at the start of the year. There's always next year, but we always run out of next year's. Naden shoulder surgery is the wing spot. Alex Lobb from the Dragons, who I believe is on the radar, who's a 7-foot winger. So, and it's not a bad shout. They could probably use a 7-foot winger, just someone, if nothing else, to bomb to.
Yep.
But that is anything else to add in the Tigers?